that most men live lives of quiet desperation. It's one of my favorite quotes ever because it's true. You're just in this world where you just can't wait to just run away. But I think one of the reasons why these people have this deep-seated anger and resentment is there's a bunch of people out there that have these lives that are deeply unsatisfying, because I think there are so many people that are working all day long doing something that is deeply unsatisfying and almost painful to them.
Yeah, soul killing.
Soul killing. Yeah. They're stuck in traffic all day, and then they're stuck in a cubicle after that. They relish the time to take a shit in the bathroom and look at their phone. I mean, they literally do that. That's a highlight of someone's day. They get in traffic on the way home. They get home after that, they're watching television.
Welcome back. My name is Steven Spicer, and it's my goal to help you invest smarter and build a stable lifetime income. As a financial planner, I run across a little bit of everything, and clients unsatisfied with their job is not an uncommon issue. The solution, I'm afraid, isn't as easy as just quitting your day job to go create a course, write a book, or start a YouTube channel. These solutions are all viable options, but quitting your job to do so is likely not in your best interest. A lot of the information you'll find online is created for views and designed to make people feel good. It doesn't place enough importance on how the advice could truly be impacting you and your family financially. Throughout this video, I include clips from Joe Rogan and GaryVee sharing their thoughts on these problems. We'll start out by exploring the issue that many face in the corporate world and why it's difficult to escape. Then we'll consider 7 ways you could confidently go about becoming an entrepreneur and ultimately quitting your day job. We're covering a lot of ground, so feel free to use the detailed timestamps in the description to jump around if you'd like. I often have viewpoints that are controversial, and I get the feeling that some people may get upset with some of the things that I'm about to say in this video, just as some do when I'm talking about my investment philosophy. But based on the conversations I've been having with clients and friends, it's what I believe a lot of people need to hear. Joe Rogan's and GaryVee's insights on quitting a job to pursue a business opportunity are far different than what you may hear from other viral social media influencers, and I tend to agree more with their perspective. Not only given my own experience, but also from what I've seen and heard from those that I've worked with who have given up a 9-to-5 in pursuit of something better. So let's get to it. Let's figure out why this is such a problem for so many. Let's start by evaluating why you may want to consider quitting or why you might be already, and how to go about it if you ultimately feel compelled to do so.
Everyone has a different personality. They have different interests, different things that they would be really satisfied pursuing. That's not encouraged. What's encouraged is go find a job. What's encouraged is go find some place that you can shove yourself into. Go find a square hole that you can stick your round peg and just jam it in there and shave down the top and the bottom so you slide in with all this extra space on the sides and feel like shit for the rest of your life because you need a job.
Rogan is not shy about the fact that he feels the corporate world is incredibly limiting for human potential. Working for an employer often comes with unnecessary rules, stipulations, and can stifle creativity. Ways to improve your business are not likely heard out from lower level employees. There tends to be a lack of connection between the work you're doing and the end goal, leading to a lack of purpose. Your schedule is typically at the discretion of your employer. Putting in extra work is rarely rewarded in proportion to your efforts, and promotions can be limited to when the next position on the corporate ladder opens up. Of course, there are some whose personality will lend itself to a corporate environment or whose current position will provide them with unique opportunities, but in general, these are the complaints that I personally had, and more importantly, that I pretty regularly hear from others. Unfortunately, this being a reality in no way means that changing your current circumstances is easy.
Because you need a job, because you're in debt, because you have credit cards, because you have student loans, because that's what everybody does. And so you do it too. That's what's wrong. You have an apartment you have to pay for, you have a car you leased, you have a wife that you have to feed, you have a child you have to raise, you have your mortgage, you have your this, you have your that, and that's where it all comes from.
The thing that frustrates me with many influencers and advertisements is that they make it seem so easy. I mean, just quit your job, start your business, and make millions doing what you love, right? I mean, once you've learned what passive income is, why would you work for active income, just trading your time for money? But the reality is that the majority of people who pursue that path will fail within the first 5 years. Most actually make it through the first couple of years, but then they end up failing within 5, meaning a long, slow, painful death for most people's business dreams. For a majority of people, this is their reality. They're trapped in the rat race because they have bills that need paid and mouths they need to feed. And frankly, if that's your reality, considering quitting your job at this point would be reckless. And I'm not referring to the impact it would have on you and the added stress and pressure that you'd have, but rather your spouse, kids, and whoever else depends on you and your income. Just outright quitting your job is often not an option. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want to discourage your dream, but I implore you to fully consider the consequences of your actions and how it could set you back even further than just running through your savings. For example, if you think you could just go back to your corporate job, you may be disappointed. Often, more than 6 months of unemployment can make employers skeptical of hiring you, or the economy could be worse, making it increasingly difficult for anyone to find a job, let alone someone who's been unemployed for some time. And remember, you're likely desperate at that point. You may have to accept a job that pays you even less than you were making before, and one that you hate even more. Imagine how that reality would feel. Likely you'll have lost a lot of self-confidence. And because employers will look at your most recent experience, which may now be that lower level position you had to take just to get by, it could take years just to get back to where you were before. I'm not saying success is not possible or that all these bad things will definitely happen to you if you try. But this is real life. Being inspired by a book or somebody on YouTube is great, but be careful. Things don't always go as planned. I'm sure for some of you this caution seems irrelevant because, well, you're probably above average. I get it. I've been there. I felt the same way when I went off on my own. We'll come back to that story here in a bit. But what about Joe and Gary? How did they do it? Well, this begins our quest for better alternatives. Ones that don't force you to place so much unnecessary risk for that brighter future. This first one won't apply to everyone, but if it does you, you'd better listen up because it can make all the difference in the world.
Well, the opportunity takes place usually when you're young and you don't have any responsibility. That's when you have your options. Well, your options are severely limited the more you gather responsibilities. Like if I had to, as a 51-year-old father of 3, married man, pays taxes, has a house and a mortgage and a business and all that jazz, if I had to quit everything now and struggle the way I struggled as a stand-up comedian, it would never work. But the only way I could be this person now is if I took that chance when I was 21, when I was dead broke and had my cars repossessed and all that stuff.
If you're 21 and you have no expenses and you're living at home, you have to go high risk. As soon as you see any blood in the water, you go. If I'm 21 and I'm at home and I have no expenses and I'm making 47,000 euros, pounds, dollars, doing something I don't love, but I want to be a film person, and the first person pays me $1,500 or $1 forever, and it works, and it went well, and she, the boss of this candy store, says, I'm going to tell all my friends about you, I may jump right away. I don't have any concerns. If I'm 42 years old and I have 3 kids and a mortgage and I'm $100,000 in debt because I went to college in America and it didn't get me a good job, and I'm an accountant and I make $137,000 a year, which basically pays for my overhead, roughly, because I bought a house bigger than I needed, I bought a car bigger than I needed. This is cliche American. And somebody pays me $1,500 and they're like, I'm gonna tell all my friends, I'm gonna give up Netflix and my video games and my weekends to eventually get that to 60 or 70 or 80 or 90,000 a year before I say, okay, now I'm at 90, 137. If I actually went all in, I can close the gap on that 57,000. Now I'm gonna make the jump because I have 3 kids on mortgage and debt. Yesterday, Aaron is 25 and single and living at home. Tomorrow he meets Sheila, falls in love, and you know, a million things could happen. Sheila could be making $1 million a year. Different life.
True.
Sheila could be making no money but he loves her so much, and she wants to buy handbags every day, and now he has a bigger, financial problem. Sheila wants to be his partner. He wants to buy handbags. It's not cliche, it's life, but you jump when you can afford to drown.
Yeah.
You jump when you can afford to drown. What I mean by that is when you jump into the pool, you have to know that you've never swam before and you might drown. And you have to be able to do that when you can. And at 21 living at home, you can.
Yeah.
Because you can go back and get a job, you have no overhead, right? But at 43 with 3 kids, you might not want to.
Joe and Gary both started their entrepreneurial careers while they were young, and it's clear they believe it's your best time for becoming a successful entrepreneur. It's not because you have a better chance of succeeding, but rather because you can afford to fail multiple times if needed, without others being negatively impacted by your choices. I do, however, think there are ways to improve your odds of success even more. You might be surprised by how many successful entrepreneurs want to help others succeed, especially young people. Take a look around at the businesses that excite you the most. What path would you want to take? Is there anybody out there that lives the life and has the business that you'd like to have in the future, or at least something close? If there is, start to reach out to these business owners. Let them know that you are incredibly interested in what they do, that you're a motivated young person that would like to build something similar to them in the future, that you would love to meet with them, to learn from them, that you're interested in working for them even, in order to gain from their experience. The goal here is to build a relationship with this mentor. Ideally, you'll aim for an opportunity where you could provide value to them on a regular basis and get paid at least enough money to pay your bills while you gain experience and they teach or help you get started on your own. The goal is not to squeeze as much income out of them as possible. Getting paid just enough to get by, though you may be underpaid, will help them identify your ambition and likely make them more willing to help you reach your goals. Regardless, the experience you can gain from a good mentor is worth far more than any college education, and they make you pay for those. I've got a young guy on my team who is doing that with me currently, and I was just one of several different people and business owners that he met with. This is a strategy that I see so few young people take, but it works. Now, if you're older and facing this dilemma, it may be more challenging to find a mentor. Don't worry, these next several options can apply to you no matter what stage you're in.
There's a lot of people out there that would way rather do something else, and I hope they understand that they can. And people that are trapped in bad situations, one of the problems is you feel like this is your future and you can't get out of that. There's no hope. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's no rainbow. If you feel like that, that alone can be incredibly defining and limiting. But if you look at yourself objectively and say, okay, I'm in credit card debt, I'm working in a shitty job, I don't like what I'm doing, but I have some ideas. I need to feed those ideas. And I need to feed them and water them, and I need to set aside a certain amount of time every day to just try to make those things happen. You can do that. I think if people have a regular day job, if you could just find one thing that you do as a passion project and just keep building on it, just keep watering it, keep adding fertilizer, keep giving it attention, keep giving it focus, and you can escape and you can be self-serving. You could be okay. And you have to spend all your waking hours outside of whatever job you do planning your escape. And you have to come to the realization very clearly that you got yourself stuck. So whatever you're doing, you have to do it like your life depends on it. And whether it is you're trying to be an author and if you're gonna try to be an author and you're working 8 hours a day plus commuting plus family responsibilities or whatever else you have, whatever time that you have to attack like you're trying to save the world. You're trying to save your life. You don't want to drown. That 1.5 hours a day that you have to write, you better be caffeinated and motivated. You got to go. You got to get after it. And you got to have discipline. Most people don't have those things. Most people don't understand what it's like to really go for something.
When you're fresh out of college, you are prime for entry-level positions. Employers see that you just finished school and are ready for the big leagues. Sure, entry-level positions can suck. You may be given menial tasks and not given any big responsibilities, but this isn't always the case. There are a lot of cool opportunities as a young graduate if you look hard enough. For example, there are a lot of large employers where I live that offer job rotation programs for graduates. It's a way that you can get several new experiences and learn a ton in a short time frame. There are a lot of companies that operate this way. Experience in the workforce and in life is valuable. That's part of the reason more successful businesses are started by people in their 40s than any other age group. Plus, if you pursue an entrepreneurial route right out of the gate and don't succeed, it may be a bit more challenging for you to go back and get a good job because, again, the gap of employment can throw up some red flags for employers. Working as a career professional has a much higher success rate than being an entrepreneur. But they don't have to be mutually exclusive. For example, 90% of millionaires are created through real estate. You can build up your real estate portfolio while working a full-time job. In fact, having an income to support yourself while you amass a portfolio large enough to support yourself financially is kind of an ideal low-risk scenario. And typically, you'll be starting small with maybe 1 or 2 properties a year for the first couple of years anyways, leaving you plenty of time to manage both a job and your properties. Your income from that job that you hate so much can help fund down payments on new properties, essentially funding your path to freedom. And if it's not real estate you're interested in, this same principle can apply to almost any business venture. The more you fuel your business with funds and experience, the better opportunity you're giving yourself for success. As for me, I had savings and a plan to make things happen on my own, to break away from the larger financial institution that I was working under. But my situation came with a few additional challenges. You see, I came to realize that my personal investment strategy was incongruent with what I was supposed to or even allowed to recommend. I grew increasingly uncomfortable with the prescribed financial advice. So I felt a moral responsibility to go out on my own, to research and find the absolute best ways for people to invest and plan financially. If I had been able to find a way to work with someone and still satisfy my perceived moral obligation, I probably would have been better off. I would have learned some of the things I needed to easier and faster. I'd likely be better off financially today, and I definitely would have avoided a lot of stress and frustration that came with trying to figure it out on my own. But since I couldn't find a firm like that actually helped people in the way that I wanted, and because compliance wouldn't let me get started while I was at that larger firm, I took that leap of faith a little over 5 years ago. The process of building my business has admittedly taken far longer, and I've faced many more challenges than I would have ever anticipated. And for the record, I anticipated it being pretty difficult. And even now, years later, I still accept the fact that things could turn the wrong way and my business could fail. That's a reality I don't take lightly. And if I could have done this in a safer way, I would have. But that's why I have backup plans in place, why I care so much about making sure my portfolio is designed in a way that can handle whatever unpredictable reality life throws at it. And it's why I am so passionate about getting this information out on this channel. This approach of maintaining your full-time job and starting your own business on the side is what I believe to be the most effective approach for most. It's worked successfully for so many and removes the unnecessary risk involved in quitting your job on a leap of faith. In fact, those who keep their day jobs are 33% less likely to fail. Having a secure income gives you time to find the best business model, to explore ideas to the point of failure before pivoting, and to give your side hustle the best chance of succeeding long term. More importantly, potentially saving relationships and a lot of stress along the way. This is real life. Entrepreneurs fail more often than they succeed. Burning the boats, you know that anecdote that conquistador Hernan Cortés ordered his well-outnumbered 500 soldiers to destroy their 11 ships upon conquest of the Aztec Empire? Yeah, he did this in an effort to let his men know that either they were going to win or die. There was no turning back. But is that actually the right approach for you and your loved ones? By quitting your day job, sure, it seems as though you're making some heroic, valiant effort to truly make it happen. I mean, if you quit, then you have to succeed like Cortez did, right? But think about this. Is this really the position you want to put you and your family into? And sure, maybe when your life is actually in danger, it can be an effective way to motivate yourself, but there's no mortal threat here. I would instead argue that having security allows you to be more creative. It allows you to view your new business as a passion project and not a job that has to pay the bills. When your work has to pay the bills, you risk viewing it as something that has to be done instead of something that you enjoy. And obviously, the mindset that accompanies the latter would lead to higher productivity and happiness. There have been several studies that suggest that when money is used as the incentive for a complex task, that not only does the task take longer for people to accomplish, but it is also done with inferior results because of a lack of creativity. Don't make this transition too soon. Maybe you have a bigger vision. You want to grow a massively successful company. You're not looking for just a side hustle that replaces your income today. You see something bigger, something that shouldn't abide by these same rules. If that's the case, I implore you to do some homework on some of the largest companies in existence today. Nike was started by Phil Knight, who sold shoes out of his van while working full-time as an accountant. In 1995, Craig Newmark sent out an email that would prove to be the beginning of his business. It wasn't until 1999 that Newmark quit his day job as a programmer and turned Craigslist into a company. Sarah Blakely started Spanx while selling fax machines for Donka door-to-door. Damon John, the Shark Tank celebrity, started his fashion company, FUBU, while working 12-hour shifts at Red Lobster. Saul Khan completed his first one-on-one tutoring session in 2004 as a side hustle after he got off from his day job at a hedge fund. He ended up pivoting to recording online videos as he grew his business, and it wasn't until 2008 that Khan Academy was released, and not until 2009 that he finally quit his corporate job to pursue his entrepreneurial passion full-time. Steve Jobs worked the night shift at Atari, and Steve Wozniak was an engineer at HP. It was in their spare time that they would work on building a computer in their garage. Kevin Systrom was working at nextstop.com as a product manager. At nights and on the weekends, he was teaching himself how to code, which eventually led to Bourbon, a mobile check-in app, and later to Instagram. The likable YouTube star Graham Stephan abided by this principle himself as he started his YouTube channel while working full-time as a real estate agent. He would often stay up late to finish content and will to this day encourage others to do the same as they get started. In fact, in this video, he recommended that a Tesla worker making $70,000 a year maintain his job until he was more confident in his $15,000 per month dropshipping side hustle. He encouraged the guy to work from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. on weekdays and more on the weekends for the last 4 months of the year before finally making that life-impacting decision to quit. The thing that all of these people did, and the advice that Graham and Joe give, is to work hard, stay up late, take advantage of your weekends, and make sacrifices. But the key is that they encourage it as a means to an end, as an alternative to taking the unnecessary risk of quitting your job too early. These sacrifices are what it takes to more safely build a lasting business. We all want to live the life that we'll love, but quitting your job tomorrow might not be the best way for you to sustainably get there. Maybe you're thinking that you won't have the time and energy to do both. This could be an indicator that the entrepreneurial path isn't for you in the first place. But regardless, it's a fair point. After all, if your job is something you're trying to escape, it's likely leaving you drained by the time you get home. If this is the case for you, listen closely to these last 4 options.
There are so many people that would be so much happier making $27,000 less a year, and the only thing they have to do is sell their current home where they only use 18% of the home anyway, and buy a home that has 2 less bedrooms so they don't have to have the job that is paying to maintain the lifestyle that they've propped up for themselves, and their life will be like disproportionately better because there's a lot more people living that than what you like. As many entrepreneurs as they are that should be employees, there's way more people that basically build a life around how much they're earning, get to a place where they hate what they're doing to earn, have the opportunity to still do something that earns $20,000 less that they love, but they're golden handcuffed by worrying about what car they drive or where their house is because they actually care about other people's opinions, and nobody has the gear to take a step backwards. The inability to take a step back, to take 4 steps forward in happiness based on other people's opinions and watching you take a step back blows my fucking face off.
When do you quit your job and go in? When you can afford it. Happiness is so unbelievably addictive. And it makes me so sad that so many of you created golden handcuffs for yourself that aren't letting you leave your job because you need to make $130,000 a year now because you wanted 700 more square feet in your apartment, or you wanted a BMW instead of a Toyota. And so you're not happy because you wanted 2 or 3 things that mean absolutely nothing. I promise you, when you've tasted both, you meet people that have tasted both. I make $180,000 a year and I have stuff, but I'm not happy. And then I went making $94,000 a year, but I'm doing what I love and I'm super happy and I have a little less stuff. It's not even close to a debate. So I implore all of you to really dig deep inside of yourselves and try to figure out why you need that stuff. I'm gonna save you time. You're trying to close an insecurity gap. Let me give you another huge hint. Everybody else sucks too, so do you.
GaryVee isn't shy about one of the most prevalent issues with the majority of Americans. We tend to live outside of our means. We spend more than we need to and are slaves to the debt that we have incurred in doing so. Why do we choose to live this way? Gary believes it's our ego trying to bridge that insecurity gap. He's probably right. But maybe it's just because we're hardwired for improvement and thus always seeking something bigger, something better. Whatever it is, it does limit some of our freedoms, as Gary explained. Without debt, without a ton of useless spending on things you don't need, how much money do you really need to live on each month? My guess is that it's hundreds or thousands of dollars less than what you're currently spending. If you could reduce your means, you're also reducing the risk involved in making the transition to not relying on your employer and becoming self-sufficient. Or maybe it removes the problem in the first place, which is that you're stuck at a high-paying job that you hate when you could do a job you love and get paid less. Unfortunately, I know this isn't the fun answer that most people want to hear, so let's explore some other successful people and see how they did what they did. Ryan Hoover knew he had some unique ideas. He felt confident he could turn them into businesses. But instead of quitting his job at Playhaven, he asked his employer for reduced hours and more flexibility. Because he had been with the company for a while, his employer obliged. Within 6 months, Ryan played with several business ideas, including Product Hunt, a user-generated platform for sharing and learning about new products. After 3 years, on December 1st of 2016, his company was acquired for $20 million. Before you decide to quit, you could at least see if it's possible to reduce your hours and at least get a more flexible schedule that would make it easier for you to pursue your dream. Or you could take the similar yet even more aggressive approach that Mark Benioff took. After working for Oracle for nearly 10 years, he was feeling burnt out. Instead of quitting, he asked for a 6-month sabbatical where he gave himself time to consider his other opportunities. During those 6 months, he got the idea for Salesforce, a company that is today valued at over $200 billion. In asking for a sabbatical, he gave himself time to explore some of his ideas, and if nothing would have worked out, well, he would have just been able to return to his job as normal, likely refreshed from the break. But Mark did something else. He had some help. You see, he coupled his sabbatical strategy with the same approach used by Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey was a web designer for a podcasting company, Odeo, when he became obsessed with his idea for Twitter. Dorsey confided with his colleague, Noah Glass, and eventually with his boss at the time, Evan Williams. Evan helped with funding, and together they assembled a team within the company to work on building what would become one of the fastest growing social media platforms. This approach can be limited to those of you who have personal connections with the more influential figures within your company, but it can work. I can tell you that I always want people working at Spicer Capital to approach me when they have new ideas. And when I think those ideas are good, I'm thrilled to do what I can to help them realize their vision and be a part in their success. And finally, the last of the solutions I have for you comes from a page out of Bill Drayton's playbook. Bill was working at the US Environmental Protection Agency when he wanted to start his own business. Instead of quitting work entirely, he first found a part-time job at McKinsey, where he could earn enough money to live and pursue his dream, Ashoka, what is today the largest social entrepreneurship network in the world. This approach, combined with GaryVee's advice of reducing costs and lowering your means, is another highly effective solution. Part-time jobs with flexible hours exist, even if you have to do something you would have never considered doing before. But make sure to have this part-time job lined up and ready before you quit your existing job. If you can find something else that requires less of your time and is enough to pay your bare minimum needs, it'll put you in a far better position than quitting work entirely. Yoshiko is another great example of this. She started her staffing company, Temp Holdings, while teaching English part-time. It didn't take her long before her company was making over $4 billion in revenue. The whole point of these solutions is that you need to make sure to prioritize the things that you truly care about. It's stupid to rely on hopes, dreams, a good idea, or even trying to follow the formula of other successful entrepreneurs. It's reckless and selfish to do that if you have more important obligations and others depending on you. That's what these are. Ways in which you can meet the obligations that you're faced with your unique circumstances, and still strive towards that something better. I want to be clear. Even though entrepreneurship / leaving a stable career / starting a business is the path that I and many others have taken, it's not the only way to achieve true financial freedom, despite the many search results from young influencers seemingly pushing you in that direction. There are other strategies, all of which we'll relentlessly explore on this channel. I hope you'll subscribe and join us for that journey. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like it, the best way to let me know is by liking the video and at least saying hi in the comments below. I'm really glad you're here. I wish you all the best. Take care.